Mind the gap. Today I'm going to talk about how to do gap analysis using Experience Analytics. Welcome to Talking Experience Analytics with a decent beer in a shed. And this is Kiss and Spell from Vitamin C Brewing up in Weymouth, Massachusetts. Oh, that is kissing and spelling. Gap analysis is one of our classic tools to understand our performance and proposition versus competitors. And Experience Analytics turns out to be a terrific framework for identifying addressable gaps in our presentation, proposition, in our operational performance, and all sorts of points in between. Typically with US Grocery, Experience Analytics will give you somewhere around 400 signals to play with on top of 1,351 individual observations and about 86 different variables. So variable is something you can do more or less of. A signal is one of the things that helps you to understand what that variable is. And an observation is literally that, the amount of that particular signal that we can observe in the space. But you can also group things into data sets. So you can have a data set that just deals with availability, or a data set that just deals with associate engagement, and so on. And so you can compare yourself gap-wise in all sorts of dimensions. And it's particularly useful when you overlay a customer story. So you say, okay, the job at hand, I want to understand with this particular type of customer who's trying to do this particular thing, where are my gaps when serving that customer versus their competing alternatives, places they can spend their money. And so you do the Experience Analytics analysis, you get the data from somebody like Uncrowd, or you can do it yourself as I showed you in the previous session. And essentially what you have is a bunch of numbers. And what you're looking for in those numbers is classically gaps. Where am I ahead? Where am I behind? Now that's very straightforward, but you're actually looking for a slightly more nuanced mix of gaps than that. And I'll talk about each of those in turn. First gap is the most straightforward. Where am I so far ahead that I can claim that to be one of my unique parts of my proposition? And so there you're looking for, and I'm going to simplify, I'm going to give numbers out of 0 to 10 because it's just a straightforward way of looking at it. If I'm a 9 or a 10 in any particular aspect and my competitors are all 6s and 7s, if that particular aspect is something that's important to the customer story that is in play, then that's something not only that I have to maintain, it tells me it's something I should shout about. And that's really useful with gap analysis, is there are often things we're really good at that we take for granted. When you can see that your competitor just can't match you on that thing, then that gives you an opportunity to say, hey, we are the home of this. This is something you get here that you don't experience elsewhere. That's a straightforward gap. The reverse of that, of course, is the second type of gap. Where am I so far behind in an area that's important to my customer? Where am I so far behind that I have to do something about it? So you identify those two sets of gaps first. The third type of gap is a really interesting one, which is, are there any areas where everybody in this market is 3 or 4 out of 10? Nobody is particularly good at it. Find those gaps, look at them through the lens of the customer story that you're interested in. And if that customer story indicates that this is something that would be very attractive to that customer type, that gives you a clue as to where to put your next investment. That's somewhere where you have a chance to create white space. And those white space opportunities are really rare in retail. When you find them using Experience Analytics, that can be a real source of competitive advantage. Really look out for those. Incidentally, I'll take you through how to make change using Experience Analytics as well. Finding the gaps is one thing, doing something about it is far more important. You get 1 point for talking about it, you get 9 points for doing something. So the next type of gap is a gap where you're very far ahead and everybody else is well behind, but your customer doesn't particularly care about that particular part of the experience. Well, those are nice too, because those are areas where you can afford to dial it back a bit. Those are areas where you've clearly been over-investing. If it's not driving the customer to make a decision to choose you, it's not helping put extra stuff in the basket, it's not helping them bring new missions to you, greater share of their spend, well then that's something you shouldn't be spending so much on, and you can afford to detune in that area. And again, because of the precision of experience analytics as a methodology, you can see exactly where to pull the brakes and where to pump the gas. You know, you can see, well, I think in America it's the same thing, those two, isn't it? Anyway, whatever. So you can see exactly where to allocate investment there. There are other gaps where everybody is fantastic and it's a table stakes piece of the experience. So, you know, for example, great stock availability is just non-negotiable. And you'll find in our analyses of American grocers, for example, everybody is in the 8s out of 10. Some people are in the 9s out of 10. There, it's not about clear blue water between you and somebody else's score. It's looking at saying, how can I consistently maintain such a high standard that I never drop below the required high standard that everybody else is achieving? We've also seen this very much in kind of action with, particularly with operators who will often look at a 4 out of 10 and focus their attention there, because 4 out of 10 looks like a failure, doesn't it? It isn't if everybody else is a 3 out of 10, and it isn't if everybody else is a 3 or a 4 and the customer indicator is not particularly over-indexed on that element. So you don't necessarily need to concentrate on that area. And we've seen this when we'll scroll through scores when presenting a new analysis to a customer. You'll get people stopping it and saying, that 4 out of 10, that 3 out of 10, what's that? We need to... But actually, when you keep scrolling and you show them, now look, in this area here, you're actually 8 out of 10 right now, which, you know, 8 out of 10, that's kind of okay. I'd like 9, but I'm okay. Let me just show you your greatest rival. They're a 9. And all of a sudden, that 8 out of 10 becomes the priority, where instinctively we thought maybe the 4 out of 10 was the priority, and it often isn't. So understanding those gaps, understanding what to look for, we've now got that. That's very straightforward. The other great thing about experience analytics is that the way that the scoring works is that 10 out of 10 is always possible. It's not some impossible halcyon version of perfection. It is achievable. And the very observation set itself tells you exactly which levers to pull in that particular example to get yourself to that 10 out of 10. So if you're looking at something like associate engagement, which includes measures of, we call it friendliness, but really friendliness is measuring some mechanical things like the frequency of eye contact, whether associates are proactive in giving advice. Do associates take customers to product? Are they available in the particular part of the store that's under observation at the time, and so on. We also look at what are the negative things that an associate can be doing, not just ignoring customers, but why? Are they on the phone? Are they gathering together with other associates and ignoring customers? Is there a lack of empathy and communication? Well, you'll see you'll see what's driving your score from the experience analytics beneath each of those variables, the signals supporting that variable, and then the observation frequencies that give you the scores for those signals. It's pretty straightforward. If you're using a data set, for example, you'll see which of those variables are the weak and the strong points. So you can then home in there and say, okay, availability, that has bakery in it, it has produce, it has dairy, all those. But actually, look, it's my grocery availability that's dragging down the overall number. So that's where I'm going to concentrate a